I'll be real with the comic fam. I missed the first call with legendary creator Jim Starlin because I was deep in an adventure in the Metamorphosis Odyssey known as Dreadstar. 40-year anniversary. Jim Starlin, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
So 40 years of Dreadstar, how does that feel?
Oh, well, it's also 50 years of me being in this business. It feels rather surreal. I can't believe at this point that I'm actually done anything for 40 years, let alone 50 years. Dreadstar and I have been around the block together for quite a while there now. He's an old friend, and you see, I feel comfortable wearing him. 50 years in the business has been a little strange. I didn't hear that coming up until it was at the door. But we got interesting things we're doing this Dejasaurus piece with Dynamite right now.
Indiegogo right now, Jim. I'm curious because, you know, I saw you a few years back at the convention and I believe it was San Diego, and you weren't doing a whole lot of drawing back then. It was one of the highlights of my year to find out that you were doing a brand new cover. You're back drawing. What's that like? And this is, I believe, your first Dejasaurus cover on John Carter of Mars.
Yeah, my co-collaborator and inker, Jamie Jameson, and I took on this project. Neither one of us had done anything along the Burroughs, John Carter line, and both very excited about getting into it. It's different. You know, I really wanted to do the Barsoom guys, the guy with the 8 legs, but Dejasaurus is apparently the one who's the most popular right now.
I wonder why.
I can't understand why. That skimpy outfit has nothing to do with it, I'm sure. But maybe I'll get a chance to do the big arm guys later, the Barsoom guys, I think. Barsoom's Mars itself. It's been a while since I read those books when I was a kid, you know, so I may be a little hazy on some of the details.
Well, Dejasaurus is definitely beloved by the comic fam. What's it like being back, you know, behind the easel, I imagine, that you draw on?
It's fun. I hurt my hand about 5 years ago, blew a big hole in it, compressed air accident. So it took me about 3 years to get the hand working again. But it's great back at it because when I couldn't draw, I dreamt about drawing. And there's nothing more frustrating dreaming about drawing than waking up in the morning and going, I still can't do that. But a lot of ball squeezing, rubber ball squeezing, and other hand exercises. I got things going again. And the persistence of Jamie Jameson that I sit down and do her a Dr. Doom sketch had a lot to do with me getting back on it. She didn't want Thanos. She wanted Dr. Doom. Go figure. You know, I enjoy writing for other people, but I also enjoy drawing my own stuff.
Well, to celebrate your 50 years in the industry, there is this Indiegogo. And aside from getting a cover done by yourself, Jim, you've also graciously provided ample amounts of creator comps. And I was hoping you can maybe describe a little bit of what that is. There are members of the community who I'm sure have never heard of this. And I'm holding right now a Strange Tales 178 that we're going to give away. And it has a cert on the back that says this certificate is to authenticate the artist proof's copy.
Well, whenever I worked on a project for Marvel, DC, anybody, there's a certain amount of comps that get delivered. It could be anywhere from 25 to 2. And all of these, for the most part, have been sitting in my closet in boxes for the last 50 to 2 years. And when we started this Indiegogo, I went through and I dug out the things and looked at what we had and realized we had some good books in there. Some Strange Tales, some cults, other different things weird that I worked on with Bernie Wrightson. They are in as bonuses in the Indiegogo.
So aside from being able to snag your takeover of Adam Warlock, as well as Shang-Chi, we also see here on this list Warlock Chronicles #4, Death of the New Gods #3. You even have provided original art as part of this Indiegogo. Mystery in Space, multiple pages, and even a Dreadstar trading card set.
Yes, that's going to be kind of exciting. 40th anniversary of Dreadstar, and he gets himself his own trading card set. You know, we had T-shirts before, but this will be the first trading cards. I just proved all the prints on those things here just recently.
During a legendary interview done by one of my best friends in the community, Comics with Bueller, years ago, you had mentioned your crown jewel of creation, Pip the Troll. And back then, and I've watched many interviews with you since then, it was almost kind of like a joke, you know? Everyone's asking you about Thanos for obvious reasons, but you'd always throw out there, yeah, but one day I just want to see Pip the Troll get his own series. I know you were shocked about Thanos, but how shocked were you about Pip the Troll at the end of the Eternals?
I had a little bit of advance notice on Pip, so it wasn't quite the shock that it was going to see that first Avengers and everybody saying, hey, he shows up at the end, Thanos. Whenever I ran into Kevin Feige at the premieres, I always lobbied for Pip. I just figured he was the longest shot I could go for, and he's actually there now. So I don't know what I'm going to do next time I run into anybody. I've run out of characters for them to dredge up to throw on the screen.
Well, Patton Oswalt voicing Pip, and it wasn't just that character that we saw. We saw Eros, we saw Star Fox, Harry Styles. Are you a One Direction fan?
To be honest, I didn't know who he was when he first started up, but I've gone on line and found out that I rather like his music. You know, I didn't know about it before then. I'm an old fart. You know, nothing on my iPad comes from before 1970 mostly. So I had a little catching up to do with Harry Styles.
Oh, fantastic. So with Thor Love and Thunder, I don't want to get into any spoilers considering the time of this filming. Have you heard of any other characters that you influenced being in this movie?
I have seen, I went to the premiere for Thor Love and Thunder. There was some confusion about who was going to be in there, but apparently I missed a number of my characters who were statues, apparently inside one scene that goes on later on in the movie. I remember seeing the statues, but I was so busy watching what was going on that I didn't catch who the statues were of. So I have to go back and see it a second time.
There we go. Another surprise that I found myself reporting was that Will Poulter is attached to Adam Warlock. Considering the Infinity Gauntlet is destroyed at this point, granted we have like time travel and, you know, variants and different universes. I don't know. But we also don't have the gems anymore. Those are like locked away in like a time variance authority desk. You know, where do you think they could go with this, considering I always think of Adam Warlock being so directly tied to Thanos and that gauntlet?
Well, multiple universes once again. Nothing says that the Time Authority was able to grab all of them.
Ooh.
I think there's a good chance that Warlock may be running around with a soul gem on. Doesn't mean that the other ones have to show up. That would make him rather unique in the fact that he steals souls.
Ooh.
I don't think anybody else in the Marvel Universe does that other than some of the vampire characters. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
50 years in the industry. I had two creative questions, if you wouldn't mind. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a Marvel writer, Shauna McGuire, and I was trying to get some tips about writing. And I was surprised, but it made total sense. And she mentioned, well, the first thing you needed to do is get into poetry. Start practicing writing poetry. It'll help your comic writing. And you're the first writer I thought of. You know, so much poetry that you brought into Marvel Comics. You know, it's part of like the cosmic and the big ideas, you know, death and resurrection and so many like big subjects. You know, what do you think about that tip? Poetry.
Well, I wasn't thinking poetry. I was thinking about therapy and philosophy when I was doing the early stuff. I was reading a lot of Wilhelm Reich, Carlos Castaneda. I mean, Jung. You know, it wasn't particularly poetry. It was what came out as poetic, I guess.
Oh.
My recommendations are to read everything, write everything, break your story down on 3x5 cards before you actually start, you know, or outline one of the two so that you have the structure there. And then when you got your first draft done, read it out loud, because nothing is more startling than listening to your own bad writing being repeated to you on a level that you can hear. It helps you fix things up.
Amazing. Well, last question for you today, Jim Starlin. I appreciate your time today. Dave Bautista has officially announced that Drax the Destroyer, his time as portraying a character that you created, is coming to an end. And he was giving thanks to all those who were part of his journey, citing that this was the biggest thing that he's ever done in his career. Considering that Drax is a bit different than your creation from the comics, what are your thoughts about his portrayal? I always have seen you chat about Drax very fondly, as well as Dave Bautista's adaptation of the character.
Oh yeah, I think what him and Gunn did with the character was terrific. Easily the funniest thing in the Guardians movies. I mean, beating out the raccoon in the tree. Drax is the comedy relief. I mean, he's the scene stealer. And so they did the visual from the later Drax, and I tend to think of that what the actual personality is from the Infinity Watch Drax. This one's more autistic than brain damaged, like he was in the Watch, but it was still, it's that childlike quality, along with a nasty streak that made the character so interesting. Contradictions are always kind of fun with the thing to watch.
Fantastic, Jim. Comic Fam, Indiegogo, link in the description. 50-year anniversary, 40 of Dreadstar. So many perks, so many comics. Jim Starlin, I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure. Geek responsibly.